Peace and blessings, fam. Brother Rob, Yobè, Afrikan Martial Arts. In this lesson, we'll be working on rotating, or a footwork that we call the pivot. Pivoting is just like it sounds. You have a pivot point, which typically for us is going to be our front foot, our front leg. And we're rotating it like a dial, right? Like a sundial. We're rotating like a sundial, just like so. Boom, boom. This is pivoting. The purpose of pivoting is to keep your opponent in front of you. So for example, if you're my opponent, and you circle, now you're here, right? You move at the angle towards me because you learned from Brother Rob that you need to attack at an angle. So maybe you cut an angle on me and you're trying to get to my towards my back. If I try to fight you from here, maybe I can get summit techniques, but it's very difficult. It's hard to hit you with my rear hand because I can't rotate very well here. Maybe I can do some spinning techniques, but it's very difficult for me to fight you when you move to an angle. And plus my feet are crossed up now if I'm trying to fight you like this. So in order to mitigate that, we utilize the pivot footwork in order to rotate and turn towards our opponent. So let's learn how to exactly do this. There's three main ways that I teach the pivot. The first way I'll show you is the easiest way, where we just break it down into two motions. So in this case, I'm gonna take my my rotating leg here, and then this is a curved line movement. Okay, everything's rotating. So in other words, I'm not moving on a straight line. Again, it's a sundial, so it's rotating. Okay, so here I'm gonna take my back foot, and it's gonna come to this angle. It's rotating at this angle, rotating at this angle. Notice my hips are turning too, rotating at this angle. Okay, so I'm here, and then I'll turn my front foot as well. Okay, now you want to make sure that you come back and keep your heel toe alignment, front toe, back heel, lined up with your opponent. That's very important, of utmost importance. Some people, if you're my opponent, you move to this angle, some people pivot too little. If I only pivot this much, well, that's still too little. My feet are still crossed up if my opponent's here. Or some people pivot too much, where now my groin is open, I'm going to get kicked in the groin here. So it's very important that you pivot the right amount and adjust the right amount based off your opponent's movement. And this is the hardest part to learn about a pivot, especially if you're training by yourself. So you just have to kind of work on that as best as you can and visualize where your opponent is, and then look down at your feet to line that up, make sure you're lined up with your opponent. So that's the first way to do it, is that two-step motion where I do the 1, 2. It's the 1, 2. Now, obviously, you can do this. Typically, how I do this is at the same time. So instead of doing a 1, 2, now with the pivot, I actually do it all at the same time, where I rotate. So my foot is moving at the same time. This foot turns, and I'm done. My pivot's done. I don't like the two. The two motions okay sometimes in the beginning, you know, because sometimes what's going to happen is this, and then this is going to come immediately afterwards. So boom, boom, 1, 2, and that's fine. Some people have a hard time rotating with the knees and their feet, that kind of thing. So it is what it is. Do which one works best for you. But as best as I can, I try to rotate my foot at the same time. So that way when my back foot lands, I'm already in the position. So this is my preferred method of utilizing this movement, is right here, boom, right here, right here. So I'm rotating my foot roughly the same time as I'm doing the turn. The other way that we typically will see the pivot is adding a step to it. So for example, if my opponent is here, yeah, I can certainly pivot towards him, but maybe I need more distance. Okay, maybe I need more distance. Or let's say Bob's my opponent here. Bob's moved towards my back here. Now if I just pivot, okay, maybe this is good. Maybe this is the distance I want to be in, or maybe it's not. Maybe because he's got the angle on me, he's already throwing a punch. And if I turn into it, I'm gonna get clocked. So maybe I need more distance. So in this case, when I pivot, I'm actually gonna bring my leg out a little bit further. It's gonna rotate, and then I'm gonna slide this foot back, right? So it's gonna rotate, and I'm gonna slide that foot back. This is essentially a pivot step. This is two types of footwork now. So now I have the pivot, but then I'm picking my foot up and I'm bringing it back with me. So I'm gonna pivot nice and long, bring this foot and come back with me. You may or may not do this at the same time. You can, but it's a little tricky, the timing of it. But main thing I want you to do is to pick this foot up and then slide this other foot back with you. So that's going to be the idea. So that's a pivot step. And then lastly, you can switch that, right? So I can step, then pivot. If I step, then pivot, essentially what I'm going to do, my opponent's here, I'm going to step first, then I'm going to turn. okay? So I'm gonna step first, then turn. Again, you might throw a punch with it. I'm gonna step first, then turn, and now I'm right here. So same thing, I'm gonna step, then turn. Similarly, you can do the same things going to the opposite direction. It's a little bit different if I'm doing the step turn, for example, and I wanna rotate this way in this case now, or actually rotate the other way. Sorry, if I wanna rotate the other way, I'm gonna step out this way, step, and then I'm gonna turn, okay? So that's the same thing, same idea, step, pivot, okay? Step, pivot. Or conversely, again, you can still pivot and then take that step back as well. So when you step, pivot, pivot, step, or pivot and do the rotation of the foot at the end, really 4 different ways in which you can utilize the pivot, right? But I want you guys to learn it. And the biggest thing is just making sure you got your heel to alignment. Now, this is the half pivot. The reason we call it a half pivot is because you're not rotating all the way around. A full pivot is going to be making a 180-degree turn. A half pivot is really anything less than 180 degrees. So for example, a full pivot is going to be all the way through, This would be a full pivot. This would be a full pivot going all the way through. The other way to do a half pivot, is off of your rear foot. Now, we don't do this very much. There's not really much purpose for doing this off of your rear foot. The reason we do it off of our lead foot, our front foot, is because if my opponent's bob here, and if he moves to the angle here, I want to, pivoting off of my front foot keeps the distance, keeps me at distance. If I pivot off my back foot and move my front foot to rotate that into him, now I'm going into him, right? He just cut an angle on me. And now I'm going to rotate into that angle that he just cut. So that means if he's throwing something, I'm going to get hit, right? So instead of rotating into him by pivoting off the back foot, I'm going to rotate away from him by pivoting off the front foot. So that's why we pivot off the front foot. But again, technically, you can pivot off of the back foot and rotate your front foot. I can rotate my front foot. In theory, I can do this, right? So this is still a half pivot. It's just practically there's not really a reason why you would do that in most situations, because you're pivoting in order to keep your opponent in front of you and to follow your opponent after your opponent has successfully cut an angle. So pivoting oftentimes is a response or a reaction, a defensive measure. The only time you're using it offensively typically is after you've already stepped, after you've cut an angle. Maybe I've cut an angle, like I showed you that step, and then I'm going to pivot, okay? That would be an offensive method, a way to use the pivot. But again, even with that, we're still not pivoting off of the rear foot. I'm typically pivoting off of that front foot as the pivot point. Okay, so that's a good practical way to use it. The only time you might, I'm trying to think of ways to justify when you would ever do this. Maybe you're trying to sweep or something like that. Maybe it would look like you're pivoting, you're rotating because maybe you're trying to sweep somebody, something like that. But typically you're not going to be utilizing a pivot off of the back foot. Anyway, guys, that's the half pivot. Get out there, train it, work on it. Biggest thing is kind of understanding your alignment and aligning to your opponent, getting him used to pivoting, circling against you at a small distance or a large distance. So if he only circles a little bit, I pivot a little bit. If he circles a lot, I circle a lot. If he maybe cuts an angle on me, then I'm going to have to step and then pivot. So getting used to those different variations, give that a shot. The biggest thing is just to know if you did it right. You have to check your heel to alignment to make sure that you're lined up with your opponent. Okay, and ideally your opponent's heel to alignment. So it should be a straight line from your toe heel to his toe heel, or a straight line from your toe heel to an angle on him. If I get to his rear side now, I'm not lined up on his with his feet, and that's okay too. I want to be at an angle. That's fine. Okay. But work on that, guys. That is the half pivot in Yobè African Martial Arts.
The purpose of our organization is to start right here in Harlem, which has the largest concentration of people of African descent that exists anywhere on this earth. There are more Africans here in Harlem than exist in any city on the African continent, because that's what you and I are, Africans.